Taken care of. Now the All Blacks, beautiful hands from Tuklaya down the left wing side. Back in field, caught Lakaya, that's beautiful. And a cut-out ball from Williams to Lindy. And Colby skins them to the inside. South Africa with their second.
Yeah, it's the line break, oxygen. England at the moment just watching the Springboks play. Gain line dominance, fast ball, staying on top of the English, getting the ball to work.
Off a quick tap from Grant Williams. Come again through Hanakom.
Okay, advantage, offside.
Offside advantage now. Williams with a free play. Goes wide, Lubbock. And Willemsen.
All right. Here we go. Nations Championship footy is upon us. What a weekend of rugby. Welcome back, everybody, to the Rugby Scoop podcast. We are back. It's international rugby, international season, and so much to unpack, so much to dissect, so much analysis upon us. Dave Rennie, his new All Black, first All Black outing with his current position as the new All Black coach. And we've got the Springboks against England. Borthwick, can he keep his job? Rassie and the Springboks dominant at Ellis Park. Supposedly empty Ellis Park, but we'll discuss the ticket pricing at Ellis Park later in the conversations. We've got Scotland upsetting Argentina at home. Ireland, who would have thought it? Who would have thunk it? Who would have made out that call where Ireland upset Australia in Australia? Anyway, let's kick it off. Jade, Craig, it's winter time in South Africa. How cold is it today?
I'm laughing at you, Scoop, because you're saying that Ireland surprised Australia. Wasn't Ireland the favourites heading into the game? Onto the third best team?
No.
On the number 3 in the world? No, man. I think Ireland that wasn't really a surprise, but it's doing good. It's cold. It's nice to get up from the couch a little bit. I was all day yesterday on the couch watching sport, watching the sport and all of the rugby. I think it's for the next 2 weeks. We're gonna have to really think wise. If you're a married man, and when there's no food and with your family.
No more house chores, for the next 3 weeks.
Because now, between this and the Soccer World Cup, it's getting crunch time, and I think our wives are not going to be happy.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Speaking of the Soccer World Cup, I mean, Morocco seems to be doing quite well. Senegal dropping a 2-0 lead against Belgium. I mean, come on, guys. At the end of the day, I think they could have done better, Senegal, as the reigning African champs. But clearly, they didn't have the minerals to get things going or to keep that lead intact for that game. But regardless of that, we're not a football podcast. We're a rugby podcast.
Last one.
Yeah.
My time on this World Cup or anything. I just want to say thank you to Bafana for being considerate towards the Boks, because if they had beaten Canada, they'll play the same time as the Boks played against England.
Bafana. That's a good one. That is a good one. Anyway, Jade, high scoring nature of Test rugby. Probably one of the topics we can start off with, right? We saw this happening within the Six Nations, and we spoke about it in the pod at length in terms of the nature of Test footy and how it's changing in terms of the score lines. We've seen something similar this past weekend where the scores are mostly above 30 with all the teams. I mean, we saw 50-40 to Scotland and France. We saw I think in the 40s in the last game between England and France as well in the Six Nations. But yeah, Springboks this weekend, 40 points. Scotland this weekend, 40 points. New Zealand and France, just over 30 mark. So the scorelines are exciting to say. But I mean, your thoughts regarding how international rugby is at the moment when it comes to these scorelines?
The standout is the skill set. I mean, you just need to look at it and see the drop in scrummaging. There's been a huge significant drop in the amount of scrums given during the game. And I mean, your main reason for scrummaging is handling errors, So for me, it's evident there. So the skill set really picked up. And I mean, we've been used to, or maybe me, watching Super Rugby or see where there's been quite a bit of games where there's been just a lot of handling errors and been really poor. When you're getting on to teams now putting in, 15, 16 phases right through without any handling errors. That just shows how the skill set are. And I mean, kudos to the skills coaches, around the world. I think that's evident. And also, the other thing is that the way teams play the power play now, how quickly teams play to get that advantage. And as soon as they get the power play in the red zone, 8 times out of 10, it's a try. It ends up in a try. So teams play now for that power play. I'll touch on something later on when we get to the box game because I did quite a deep analysis in terms of what they do differently to the rest. But I mean, if you're looking at the Boks, who's been the best defensive team in the world for the past decade, let's say, let's give them that. They considered 3 or 4 tries against England yesterday. So for me, you're looking at that it's just evident how the game's changed and how the skill set is picked up. And I mean, we've all been raving and saying, whoa, look at it. I mean, English Premiership, it's basketball, Super Rugby is basketball, top 14 is basketball. But isn't it just the time where attack shapes and the skill set of players have gotten so good where, I mean, you look at a simple thing like a box kick. The way the Boks use that box kick as a weapon to get an outcome on the scoreboard from that kick, bro.
I want to touch on that.
We'll touch on it. But I mean, they're using that as a weapon. And teams are using so much weapons to get points on the board and to get territory. So for me, you got to look at the skill set. Once again, I go on and I touch on it again, the triple threat, the catching, passing, and kicking game. I think that skill set, the triple threat has been absolutely increased in this past year or so.
Fair. Griffin, stats man, the UK man. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you've got the heater on at the moment. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you've got cocktails, champagne, and the sun is out. How are you doing?
Cocktails and champagne. I think there's different life in the UK to the Netherlands, Scoop, honestly. It's good, man. It's good. It was a long day of rugby yesterday. My head is kind of fried a little bit from all the rugby that there was. But glad to be back on the pod. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's been a wee while. I mean, touching on the same topic regarding high-scoring nature of Test footy, before we jump into the All Blacks and France, then we go to Australia, Ireland, then we touch on Wales, Fiji, Springboks, England, Scotland, Argentina. Jeepers, a lot of footy, lots to discuss. But regardless, the high-scoring nature, Griffin, I mean, your thoughts, I think we've also touched on this regarding the Six Nations, and I think maybe once or twice in the WhatsApp group as well. But your thoughts regarding this?
I think for me, because it's happening, everywhere at the same time, I'm looking for kind of what's the underlying thing that can cause everybody, every league in the world, every international team in the world to go the same way. And it's even down to Tier 2. If you look at the Nations Cup, which is the Tier 2 comp that's going on at the same time. Same again, I think it was like 440 points scored across 6 games or something. So it's the same everywhere. So what can be underlying? And for me, it has to be the laws. It has to be the laws of the game and the way that the game is refereed has changed. And that's driving everybody's score lines up. You look at, a couple of years ago, it was the laws around escorts and box kicks and making it basically a lot easier for teams to retain their own kicks. And so teams started picking players who are better at that. And then you look at, like Jade said, the reduction in scrums and weaker scrums being protected, which is still a bit inconsistent, I will say. I don't know, like, Scoop, if you want to mention that in a bit, but I do think there are some referees who are allowing a contest and some referees not, and that's frustrating because you can go from game to game and not know what you're going to get. But then you've got new laws now about the maul, about how if you're beyond the ball, you have to retreat, and that's basically making it easier to score tries that way. We saw a lot of maul tries at the weekend, a lot of mauls that cross the try line quite easily for all teams, really. You look at the space that the 9 is given, the protection that scrum halves are being given these days. It's a bit like goalkeepers in soccer, isn't it? About how in corners and things, goalkeepers are given a lot of protection. You're not allowed to touch them, basically. Scrum halves are getting that way now, and in a lot of teams, the scrum half is the best player, whether that's All Blacks, France, South Africa. Maybe there's more competition for that accolade, but the great players been given a lot more space, and we're seeing now as well as attacks are becoming less system driven and more kind of individual. Yes, there are systems. Yes, there are patterns. But coaches are just picking the razzle dazzle players now. The individual players, they're getting time and space on the ball, and it's leading to outcomes which are scores. The question is, when do we cross the line and say this doesn't mean anything anymore? We're not celebrating tries anymore because we know there's going to be another 6 in the game.
Oof. Hectic. But to touch on the scrumming element, actually, there's a bit of inconsistency there, and I agree with you, Griff, on this one. Where when it comes to scrums, I mean, for example, if I look at the All Black and France game, first scrum, I think there was an element of hinging, and Luke Pierce pinned the All Blacks immediately. And you had a few hinging moments in 2 other scrums, but there was no penalty, and the players were forced to play away from the scrum. And then in the second half, I think New Zealand had a bit of ascendancy in the second shove when it comes to the scrum, but we were forced to play away again. And then you come to the Springbok and England game, where the Springboks were getting the purchase on scrum penalties, right? And you went to the Australian Island game, and I think they were also getting purchase on scrum penalties as well. But now you're having this this element of officiating where some referees, as you said, Griff, some referees do allow for the contest, and some referees are not allowing the contest. And I think World Rugby needs to really clearly define when you're allowed to play away and when you're not allowed to play away. But also, from what I saw from my analysis, was as soon as that ball has passed the locks hips, most referees are calling play away. You must notice if that ball is still under the belly of the locks, then the referees will allow you to have that second shove, and the referees will then penalize or reward you with the penalty. So that's one thing I was looking at when I was watching the games, and I'm like, maybe that's how they're looking at it, but maybe I'll drop a few messages to some of the officials and be like, okay, how are you guys analyzing play away, and how are you analyzing rewarding a good scrum? Because we want to see consistency. I know they try to move away from the scrum power game, but at the same time, it's still an element of the game that still needs rewarding. If you have a strong scrum, you want to reward players. And I'll go back to Russ's they had this podcast, I think we shared the link online as well, beginning of the year, where they were talking about the shape of the game and types of players that are allowed in the game. Big, small, doesn't really matter. So there are the players that are big want to get reward from scrum because they're not going to be like a Cheslin Colby and sidestepping you to pieces, So their element of the game is to focus on scrumming and winning penalties at scrum time. So we need to kind of have a balance. I understand we're trying to play away from the power game, the scrum power game, but at the same time, if teams have ascendancy at scrum time, reward them, give them the penalty, But yeah, moving on, guys. Before we get caught up, and we can spend another hour just talking about the nature of the scoring. We had the All Blacks versus France kicking it off, Griffin. And from what you've seen in the past 2 years, 3 years, Fozzie 2023 or 2022, and then Razor 2024, 25, and we've had our fair share of complaints on the pod about Razor style. I've had my fair share of complaints about Fozzie style. I think myself and Jade were quite clear on how we were very conservative and we needed some change. We spoke about Ruben Love, 2 years ago already, because we'd seen enough of Bowden Barrett from an All Black perspective. Obviously, it didn't help not having Richie Mwanga in the mix. But would you say, I know it's the first game, it's very tough to judge on the first game, but would you say is there an element of difference, actually? Maybe that's how I should phrase this question. Is there an element of difference from what you've seen the past 3 seasons from an All Blacks first game, or are we still seeing the same traits and behavioral traits?
I think first and foremost, I think that Rennie got selection right, in my opinion. If you talk to coaches like Jake White, who says, the last thing he thinks about at night and the first thing he thinks about in the morning is selection, and it's the most important thing, particularly at test level. And then I think that Rennie mostly got selection right. I'm not the closest follower of Super Rugby this season, but certainly I felt that having that Hurricanes connection in the midfield, really, it worked. We know it worked at club level, and they brought it up and it worked at international level. I do think that Ruben Love was a little bit fortunate to come back on the field after his high shots. I think some other refs would have given the red card for that. But yeah. it is what it is. He came back on.
And I think even Bowden Barrett was lucky as well. There was another moment of a high shot also on the end.
But he's come, either way, I think Love played well, and I think he deserves to keep hold of that jersey for the next games. The next game's against Italy, so I don't see why you would change it for that. So I think that helped. I will say that I do think that the All Blacks looked a bit more purposeful in this game than they did at times under Razor. At times last year, I was watching the All Blacks and they were just kind of mucking around, multi-phase play in their own half, that kind of thing. And you're thinking, guys, what are you doing here? This is messing around. You need to get closer to the opposition try line. Whereas in this game, I do think they were more purposeful. It wasn't perfect. They've conceded over 30 points, as you said.
Yeah.
But generally, I do think they were the better team in pretty much every facet of the game. They were still at times putting a lot of passes. It feels like there's a rule with the All Blacks, and it's been there for a little while now, about you're not allowed to throw a long pass. No floated passes, no lofted passes. They always go through the hands down the line.
Yeah.
Like 5, 6, 7 passes where most teams would do 2 or 3. That's unusual. Now in this game it seemed to work, but I don't know why no one's putting in a long pass.
The bridge passing.
Instead they're using, 3-4 meter passes every single time. That's odd to me. But generally, I think it was as good a start as you could hope with. And I think, like I said, the big thing that they got right for me was selection.
Fair. Jade, as an avid All Black supporter, we've waited the whole year for this. After the announcement of Dave Rennie, there was a lot of enthusiasm from the media in New Zealand, obviously, and obviously among some supporters as well, understanding the history or the background Dave Rennie has had. He might be on the older side of age when it comes to coaching if we compare him to the current coaching staff, but him and Joe Schmidt are probably like in their 60s already. And you look at the compilation of his coaching staff is on the old side of things, maybe bar a Tana Umaga and the attack coach Blair. But regardless of that, now he's at the job. Now he's got the job. He's had 2 weeks to prepare. Obviously, the other guys who were based in New Zealand have had time to have conversations, talk about tactics, talk about how they want to play, etc., etc. But now the real job started on Saturday. And from what you've seen, based on similar question to you on Razor, Fozzie, Hansen, maybe between 2015 and 2019, are we seeing glimpses of maybe now we're starting to play like the old New Zealand side? Because if you look at the attack, and you mentioned the amount of passes that they have to go through, I think from my side, I think there's more element in terms of players coming around the corner or the back passes, which they didn't have under Razor. So there is someone basically coming around, or there is someone coming on the screen, off the screenplay. There is somebody just generally always on the loop That's what I felt. I felt like they had numbers more than they did under Razor. Razor, they probably had less numbers coming around, because if you look at a Jordan perspective, he would come from the right wing to the left wing. You look at how he would also just jump into the pivot position at 10 or first receiver from a Roy guard. And then you would also have Jordie Barrett coming in at first receiver. And then you would have a Damian McKenzie coming in at first receiver. I think that interchange kind of created more opportunities for them on attack. Handling errors, terrible. Honestly, terrible. There were so many entries into the French 22, and we just knocked the ball on attack or forcing a pass, which is something that I've noticed under Razor, which is something I'm noticing even now. Maybe we're going back into that. There's still a little bit of overplaying, where you could have just consolidated, take the carry, set up the breakdown, have your forwards coming around the corner, and then get the ball out into the backs. But there were times where I thought, just slow down, guys. Patience. There's opportunities. France will definitely fall away eventually, but we just kept giving France the opportunities with those knock-ons or kicking the ball directly into Jalibert, which is something that Ruben Love did, and then they end up scoring. I mean, yeah, let me stop talking and maybe get your thoughts regarding the All Blacks.
You just gave a summary there, Scoop. I think that summary. I mean, you gave the good and the bad of the All Blacks there. Obviously, you're still going to get a lot of hiccups, and you're still going to get a lot of pain points for this team. I think, first of all, it's a win that Rennie wanted to get his back, regardless of opposition. He had a torrid, I'm going to say a torrid start, but more or less, he was in Japan for a few months and then came back, He didn't really, I don't think, if you asked him, he would rather have taken over the job, earlier, and being fully focused on the job earlier. But his commitments in Japan meant that he had to still spend time up that side, And I don't think it was perfect and ideal for them in terms of the alignment. I think you would have wanted to get an alignment camp also in, just to get guys on the page, on the similar page. I mean, and then he came to Christchurch, a lot of hype this week with the new stadium. You had old guys like, Henry's a part of the squad as a selector, but you had Steve Hansen coming into camp, checking on the team. I mean, all of those sideshows disrupted them this week in terms of their prep. But they didn't have the best start. I'm not going to go through the game, but they didn't have the best start. When Ruben Love got the yellow card, it was like, okay, now they need to dig deep. But they came back and we saw them, like you were saying, playing the ball, spreading the ball around. But there's 2 or 3 occasions where Jordie Barrett did play the bridge pass, where he did get it out wide to Will Jordan, skip pass to Will Jordan, and they scored. I like the ruck speed. I like the speed at which Cam Roigard was getting ball. I think for Cam Roigard now, as good as he is, but I would like him to get a little crisper service, Scoop. There was a few times yesterday where his service could have been better. And I think, maybe it's just us being used to the likes of Aaron Smith, where we always knew that you're going to get 100% crisp service. I think that's one thing that Roigard can improve in his game, as good as he is, is maybe his service and being quicker, a little bit more quicker to the breakdown, even though he is very fit, just getting quicker there, because that's where Dave really wants to play like that. He wants to hit rucks, hit up rucks, get up clean, quick ball, ruck speed, and that's his game plan, Individual mistakes again. I mean, the likes of Tupaya, Jordie Barrett, I think it was Audie as well, a few high tackles given their discipline. But for me, you got to start to question and you got to start to think guys need to make better decisions. I mean, Audie Savia had the first 10 minutes after halftime, we all thought at halftime, listen, the All Blacks were playing good rugby, France is gone here, Audie Savia tackling, I think he tackled number 8 of France.
Yeah.
The ball. And then they get the ball, they get a penalty midway on the half, and then they take a quick tap, simple stuff like that. The All Blacks going to realize is when they do let teams back into the game, they got to realize that they should stop doing it on their own account. With the Boks, for example, if you're looking at what they do, you're going to work to get back into that game. But the All Blacks at times, they allow you back into the game. Like you mentioned there, Ruben Love kicking the ball away. They're leading by 9 points, or it was 9 points, and then McKenzie takes a half cap. Instead of just keeping the ball, throws a 50-50. try line yesterday, Peter Lakai. All he should have done is play the ball inside to Fletcher Newell. He plays the wrong pass, Stuff like that, where the All Blacks they are still the own worst enemy. I hope they can iron it out. I hope so. I think yesterday, if you're looking at guys that put up their hands yesterday, Sam Derry, I think it's looking very, very difficult for a guy like Scott Barrett to get back into this team now.
No.
He continues to play like this, Scoop. He has extra advantage at the line-out time because he's taller. And for me, he's strong. He carries up well. I mean, he's still got people.
Jade, are you hearing yourself? A former captain.
I'm hearing myself. I'm hearing that. I didn't give Josh Lowe the credit that. I mean, he didn't get as much credit because he didn't have a good game yesterday. But a guy like Sam Derry, and when you got Holland coming back, you got Tupo Vai. Where does Scott Barrett fit into this whole situation?
On the side of the scrum, surely.
On the side of the scrum.
Yeah, number 6. So who's the number 6?
You're gonna sacrifice. That's the problem. He needs to get his balance right. I think next week we'll see a completely new loose trio. I don't think he'll decide loose trio. I think he'll give a complete new loose trio. You might see Audi move to 7 next week, the TT start, and you might see what's this guy's name, Parker or Segner come in. And then I think at Ireland will be more or less his number 1 loose trio. I think he'll give everybody a run there. But Scoop, as much as everybody's talking of, it's a France B team, etc., etc., if the All Blacks went ahead and they smashed France by 50 points, they say they beat Italy next week by 50 points. And I mean, Ireland is there for the taking. They beat Ireland by 30, 40 points. Going into the greatest rivalry tour, it will be a misinterpretation and a misperception of where the squad is at the moment. They need to iron out these mistakes that's coming on. They need to know what are the areas of focus so that they can go into this greatest rivalry tour and perform. Because for me, if they're going to come on a high with a false perception, they're going to lose 4-0 against the Boks. Simple.
4-0. It's not going to happen. That I can tell you for free. That is not happening. All right, touching on that point, we know Hugh Griffin is massive when it comes to French footy. There's plenty of conversations again this year about France sending a B team or a C team. I don't know. But from my side, watching France when they sent their team from last season that was playing 3 tests against the All Blacks, some of those players ended up playing at the end of the year tour. Some of those players ended up playing in the Six Nations this year. So now that I'm reading how Gautier basically prepares his players to come into the international scene, he uses the summer tour to probably test out players if they will play for France at the end of the year, or some of those players will play in next year's Six Nations. Because some of the names that are popping up, I'm like, I saw this guy who was here last year and is again in New Zealand this season. Or I saw this guy play against the Boks at the end of the year. Now they're playing in the Six Nations and now they're back in New Zealand again. I mean, based on logic or based on reality, France are a good side. France have the players, France have the kettle. Whether it's A, B, or C, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, whatever team they would put out there is a team that is capable of playing any international team, any international side in World Rugby. And looking at how they performed in the Six Nations, I mean, they lost to Scotland, right, with the full-strength team. So All Blacks lost to France in 2004 by 1 point, right, in France, in Paris. So for me personally, it doesn't make a difference whether France brings a B team or a C team. It really doesn't matter because we did travel to Paris when they had all their frontline players and still lost by by a point. Rico Ioane knocking on the ball inside the French 22 on attack. Things could have been different. But this debate about, oh no, it's the French B team, it's the French C team, I mean, does it really hold water in the bigger scheme of things?
I think you make a good point, Scoop, and I think you argue it well. In the case of the pack, I mean, if it's nuanced and you have to go kind of position by position, I do think that in the pack, that not having the Toulouse forwards is a big downgrade in talent, in my opinion, especially if you look in the second row, the likes of Flamont, Miafu not being available, these guys, because I do think, particularly at the breakdown, I thought that France really struggled against New Zealand. Guys like Adi Surveyor had a field day winning jackal turnovers, and I do think that having some of those Toulouse forwards in there would have helped mitigate that. And I do think that having the better second rows available would have helped that as well. So there's that side of it. And then into the back line, in terms of raw talent of players, you're right that the players are there. And as we spoke about at the beginning of the pod, in this attack-first era of rugby, just having talented players gets you a lot further than it used to. Players who can just razzle-dazzle, do something, not necessarily individualistic, totally individualistic, but can go off script. But if you look at the back line that France ended up having in that second half, I thought that Luku had a bit of a mixed game. I thought that his box kicking wasn't great. Mm-hmm. I think if you look at Luku's strengths in it from a kicking point of view, then his strength is the length of his kicks, his territorial kicks. This guy can kick from 22 to 22. For
long, yeah.
Whereas his contestables weren't great; they were mostly too long. So he struggled from that point of view, in my opinion. And I love the guy. Jalibert, I think, continued his great form. I think he's been playing fantastically for 2 years.
He was good.
He takes a lot of risks, and when he takes a lot of risks, not all of them come off. So a lot of people don't like him because of the number of quote-unquote errors or just giving the ball away that he does in a game. But you have to compare that to the number of times where he creates something that's there's a very small number of players in the world who could. In the senses, you had Moafana, who I thought was solid, Brobori, who had very good moments, but 13 is probably not his position. At club level, he plays 12. His caps for France have come at 12 so far. Yeah. And so having him partner Moafana in my opinion, was a risk, was an experiment from Galtier. And then you look at the back three, with Penaud going off, and they brought Hastoy on. And I think that Galtier needs to answer a question there, because they had Deporter on the bench. Now, Deporter is just coming back from a long-term injury, medium-term injury.
Yeah.
And he's a centre. But for me, they could have I would have put Deporter into the centre because he's club mates with Moafana, and then Brobori on the wing because, no disrespect to wingers, but wing, you can probably hide someone out there a little bit more. Not that I think he would have been hiding. I think he would have done a good job. But but what they actually did was Hastoy out there, and it seemed at times that Hastoy was playing on the wing. And for anybody who doesn't know, Hastoy is a fly half, and he's not like a utility back. He's not that.
I thought Spring could move in any of the back row positions, 15, 11. Yeah,
100%. I would have left Spring out there, or Atisogbe can play fullback, and I would have put Bravo in the wing. So I think there's a question for Galtier there of why did you make that call? Because what that also did was it delayed them bringing Legorec on, the replacement scrum half.
Yeah.
Because Legorec and Hastoy are club teammates at La Rochelle.
They injected a bit of pace as well off the breakdown.
Legorec is a great player. Is a great player. So I think that by having Hastoy on the wing, they didn't want to create even more chaos by introducing another variable by breaking up the Luku Jalibert sort of partnership. Okay. So for me, I think Galtier's made a mistake by bringing Hastoy on. I think if he brings Deporter on, then that also allows him to bring Legorec on earlier.
Yeah.
So sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, then my second question would be then, before Jade jumps in, is Galtier very good at making tactical substitutions? Because by just listening to what you're saying, obviously you are more well-versed than me when it comes to French footy, but in terms of technical and tactical ability and watching how that game was going, is Galtier, I mean, even if we track it back to Six Nations, right? Is he capable of making tactical substitutions? Because if you watch when a Dupont is on the pitch, he hardly even comes off the pitch, for example, whether things are going wrong or whether things are going right? But at the end of the day, every single team has a number 9 on the bench, and you want your number 9 basically change the scope and the picture that you've been presenting for 60 odd minutes or 70 odd minutes, right? And when what's his leg? Is it Legarek, right? The other nine. Once he came on, there was a bit of injection of pace and quicker breakdown. The ball coming off the deck, 2 seconds, it's already out. Your defensive lines don't settle within 2 seconds, right? That's why some people will slow down the ball in the breakdown. So for me, now that you're mentioning all these things, I'm like, Gaultier, can I trust you to be tactical when you make those substitutions in a game like this? Because it was literally you score, I score, you score, I score type of game. So now, in order to manage and change the pictures that you've been presenting for the All Blacks, now, is the substitution made at the right time or was it too long? Because, for example, you look at a Roygaard managing the game very well in certain moments, but it was a good idea to keep him for at least 75 minutes in that game. Because had they taken him off quite early, I don't think the other scrum half could have handled some of the pressure around the breakdown or around the edges for a longer duration than 15 minutes, etc. But regardless of that, that's the question. And then Jade, you can jump in after Hugh.
Yeah, I do think that it is a question over Galtier. You gave the perfect example, Scoop, with Dupont. We've all seen games where Dupont needed to come off and Galtier has shied away from it. Which, by the way, the Hugo Moller, Dupont's club coach at Toulouse, has started subbing Dupont now. In the top 14 final, he subbed Dupont on 60 minutes, brought him off and said, okay, there's time for somebody else to come on now. So I do think that is a question over Galtier as well. In the game against South Africa last autumn, Galtier emptied his bench like ahead of 50 minutes. France were on top. I know it's a long time ago now, guys, but if you cast your minds back, France were kind of on top at that point in the game. And Galtier unloaded his bench, but what that meant was that he'd thrown all his punches by the 50th minute. He had no cards left to play. Yeah. So I do think it is a question over Galtier of does he make the right subs at the right time?
Yeah, fair. Jade, you've been holding water for 30 minutes.
Nah, man. I think you also need to take into consideration that these guys also play the 12 sub rule in France. So in the top 14, they're allowed to make the 12 subs. And there's a lot of rolling subs. It goes back and forth in terms of that. So, it's also something in France that's experimented from that side as well. That's why also you never actually get the full load from the bench in terms of Gaultier and Co. But, I'm looking at this French team and I'm thinking to myself, what happened to the out-and-out scrummaging? I mean, you made some valid points. I throw UBB in that LBB in the team, throw and Ramos, throw, not so much Dupont hasn't been on form, but I mean, you throw Mofana, Movaka in the team, make a massive choice. But after looking at the props, I can't see, I don't know what happened to the French scrum. A few years ago, we knew the French scrum would give you absolute chaos. But yesterday, I saw when Awadi and Co came on, and Numia was a new kid on the block, the All Blacks got to see it in scrum time, especially when Lomax, Asofamo and Numia came on. You could see where the direction is going. France was hanging on. They didn't want to take the heat at times as well. So what happened to the French scrum? I mean, looking at all of the quality that you have, around the park, especially in the tight five, but there's still no props that scare me in terms of French rugby. The big props that they're talking about is being down Mafuna, and I mean, the ones playing for South Africa now is Carlos Sadi. So what happened to the props? Where? And the rest of the props with Jordan. What happened to the props?
Rassi was making sure that the French don't even tap into Sadi. He made sure of that by bringing him into the Springbok squad this year. He was like, there's a big prop in France from South Africa. He's not spending any more time over there.
Any time there, but that's the thing. And I mean, the case is then everybody makes the case, yes, France is beating. Yes, I mean, Flamont, Mofana, all of these guys were there, but there's a few guys here that put their hands up. I mean, it's going to be very, very difficult now to drop Giroud and Gazotti at 7 and 8 now from this team. They've been playing brilliant rugby. The same like last week was Gillard that came into the tournament and then he made the locking position his own. I mean, Jalibert has been brilliant. Arguably, he's been the player of the season in France at the moment. So it's going to be very difficult for them to make this, although they have this depth. I think we need to be real honest and stage as well. Yes, it was a French beat, the weaker team, yes, but there's still like quality players there. And if we're looking at it and we're going for horses, I mean, no Tamati Williams, no Tupovai, no Patrick Chopolotu, no Fabian Holland, no Scott Barrett, that's also a huge chunk of, and Basilio Tossi was also injured before the time. That's a huge chunk of the All Black Tide 5 that wasn't there as well. So I don't think we can look so much at the perception of it was a French B team. It's just for me, these guys get us opportunity that other unions would love. Imagine what the box, certain box players would do to get a tour, with when Eben and all of those guys are resting, and now you're having a younger team going on tour. Imagine how much you learn from this. So I really think out here, it's a win-win situation here, but let's move away from this B team narrative. I think it's still a quality French team that was out there.
Fair enough. We need to move on because I think time is against us. Takeaways from Australia, Ireland, Jade?
Ben O'Keefe was bad yesterday for the first time in a while. Just a big takeaway. I mean,
he was rusty.
Gosh. And that's what happens when you have, Gardner and Ben O'Keefe, who's hands down the best officials in Super Rugby. But then you're having them not blowing the final. You have Nick Berry blowing the final and key fixtures, So I think that's also a big thing. But Ireland, there was a time yesterday, I think it was after that, Lonergan scored interception. And I thought, Australia have now got a 12-point lead here. And they might just, build and capitalize onto this. But I think Australia, as good as Carter Gordon was yesterday with ball in hand, I think they're gonna need to find
another 10.
Or what they did with Matt Burke and Elton Flatley when Larkham was there, having another guy that can kick the poles in the team. Ryan Lonergan can kick the poles. I don't know how his injury is, but I don't think he'll be the starting 9 if Jake Gordon was fit. And remember McDermott came back from long-term injury. So
yeah,
Australia takeaways there. They centre combination looking promising. I think Joseph Swahili is growing into international rugby at the moment.
And then Lenny is looking good.
Now, listen, I'll send you my location, but that's the best centre in the world at the moment, Lenny Kitao. I'll send you my location.
I'll send you my location. Yeah, it's between him and Barrett at 12. Hey, man,
he's been brilliant. Even for Exeter, he's been brilliant, He's
but also that the 12 from Ireland is not bad. He fucking makes carries, man.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He's got wheels as well. He's got wheels.
Yeah.
Saw him running. I think he ran in Jorgensen there, with the interception.
Quite intense.
By the time he came with for the Jamison Gibson Park try before halftime, looked a touch forward. It looked forward.
It was.
Looked forward. I mean, it was. The try hadn't to go there. Australia would still had. I think they would have had a 12-point lead going into halftime.
I think they let Ireland in, man. To be honest, because they should have really put the nail in the coffin, score 1 or 2 more tries, or even take the points right at times as well. The last kick of that game, Donaldson, you are 10 meters from the halfway line inside your opponent's half, and then you are 5 meters from the touchline. So on an angle, let's say, what is that? 55, 60 meters?
50 meters on the angle, Scoop.
Oh, man. Come on. Why are we not going for touch? Get the ball inside the 22 or on the 22-meter mark. Form a maul, because the maul now is so strict, right? You can cop a penalty, or Ireland could have copped a penalty. Form a maul or a dummy maul. Have Peach coming off the 9 or coming off the hooker on the left shoulder. Take that ball in, because there's always a gap on the edge of that maul or on the edge of the line out between the 15-meter line, right? Take it up. He takes it up 10, 15 meters. Set up play. Get Saoli'i first receiver from that edge, from that ball, from that breakdown, right? And then after him, it's your loose forward coming around the corner at pace. Man, it could have been just a basic, simple 1, 2, 3, 4 phases, and I bet you're scoring on the corner with Jorgensen.
Remember, they were one short. They had, I think it was Shaw that was sent off. He had a yellow card, so I think they were locked down as well. And that also played the back of the mind of Wilson. But I mean, Wilson did ask him to get back himself, and he said yes. But for me, the biggest problem, and the thing that Leskis and who's the coach now, Schmidt, need to iron out in this team. I know I'm talking a lot of Australia at the moment, but they need to find a way to get more closer to Valentini when he does bust. Because there's a lot of times where he busts into the midfield channel, there's no offload.
There's no one. Yeah.
So they need to get, your McWrights, you need to get your Jorgensens, your Peaches closer to him so that he can play that ball through, and then he's a massive line back and a massive opportunity, because 7 out of 10 times Rob Valentini makes the bust in the middle. He makes that bust, he gets through. He's not a one-dimensional player. He runs at that angle, or he runs onto the weaker shoulder and he makes that bust. But then you will always see the ball is recycled, the ball is slowed down there. Whereas there's an opportunity there for them, and especially with Carter Gordon, who plays to take the ball closer to the line as he comes to the rugby league background.
He loves a bit of a carry, Carter Gordon.
He loves a bit of a carry. So especially with him, getting Valentini on that angle and playing from there, I think there's something that we really need to look at, and they really need to alter that in terms of their attack. But other than that, I don't think Australia will be too hardened by the result. They had a good performance. Ireland will be chuffed. Ireland will be chuffed for that performance. I think it meant a lot to them. Coming off a long season and a lot of question marks against them. It's just another tick that Farrell made silently. But yeah, it remains to be seen what France does next week. I think Australia plays France next week, so let's see. Let's see what happens next week. Australia does prove, or do they go back into the shell again?
It's a nice game, though.
Stronger French team, yeah.
It's a nice game. Hugh, your thoughts, and then we jump on to Fiji, Wales.
I don't know how happy Ireland will be with that, to be honest, because I just want to say it's crazy that they ever went for that kick at the end. Like, Donaldson, okay, fair play, bro. You thought you could get it. So one of his friends don't let friends take that kick on. I mean,
never.
What did he do? But I'm not sure how happy Ireland will be with that, because for me, if you stack up the last 10 games next to each other, I'm not saying Ireland are perfect, but for me, Ireland were clear favourites coming into this. If you look how Australia finished 2025, and to be fair, this is a bit of a thing now with Australia. They tend to start their campaigns better than they finish. Maybe that's to do with their depth or whatever it is, but I think Ireland will be frustrated. And I still think that Ireland are kind of stuck at the moment, because when they brought back Crowley for the Six Nations, and everyone was saying, this works so much better. Well, yeah, but they went back to like 2023 footy. And everyone's like, we're getting back to what we're good at. We're getting back to what we were doing when we were winning. It's like, yeah, but the game's moved on, guys. You're not going to rock up at the World Cup next year and play 2023 footy and get to a semi-final. But the problem is it's it's not all the same players, but it's a lot of the same players, mostly the same coaches, all trying to find a different way to do business. And I'm not sure they have it in them to change. But I think they need to change.
That is fair. Because now you're not creating or giving the same pictures when it comes to innovation. Or maybe they do need a different pair of eyes coming to join that coaching squad or coaching staff as well. Going to Fiji and Wales. Griffin, obviously, I think everyone expected a tight contest. Fiji starting like a house on fire. I don't know what the hell was going on in that first 5 minutes, because they were punching through the line, breaking into tackles and offloading at the same time. Peter Gasoli'i, man, come on. Where on earth did he come from with the grey beard? I was like, who's this uncle on the field? But nonetheless, I think percentage footy helped Wales in this case. And I'm happy that they also didn't get sucked in when it comes to that Fijian style of play. Because some teams can lose all traction when it comes to moments like this, where you find your opponents playing beautiful rugby and you want to kind of emulate what they are doing. And that takes you away from your initial game plan. But I like the fact that they had some calm heads within the Welsh team, where people just went, listen, let's scrum if we have to scrum. Let's maul if we have to maul. Play percentage footy. We're not going to run from our own 22 and try to score 100-meter tries. No. Settle down. Bring it closer to home. We know Fiji will fall away eventually, which is a big thing in rugby, guys. Like, you need to have the ability to keep to your structures. And it takes patience. it takes maturity to keep punching away, doing exactly the same thing over and over. If you know it's working, or if you know your opponents will eventually fall away, which is something that I mentioned about the All Blacks earlier, because if they kept on just punching and picking up and driving, they could have put France away completely. But they moved away from those structures because of this word optimism. People wanted to throw the ball out wide, and France had a very high line speed on the edge. But with Wales, when they had a maul inside the Fiji 22, maul it, drive, get the penalties, or get the advantage. Now it's a free play, so you can do whatever you want. I like that. I like to see that from teams, because then that shows a bit of maturity as well. We know this Welsh team is very young. Now they're 2.5 years in, going into 3 years. Like I said, they just need to keep punching away, keep to those structures, and eventually it's going to click. It's going to click. But yeah, Griffin, your views.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, Wales have now won 3 games in a row. Italy, Barbarians, and Fiji.
Hey, 3-0.
And we are top of the Northern Hemisphere table. So how
Can
about
you
that?
believe it?
So I think there's 2 ways of looking at this. Firstly, you can say exactly what you outlined, Scoop, of, Wales just needed to win. So they just won. They didn't worry about much else. They just said, how do we win this game, lads? Or we'll maul it, we'll scrum it, we'll keep it contained. And I think Wales had 46 rucks in the whole game. We're just not going to play. We're literally just going to go from set piece to set piece and be clinical when we get there. And they were, and it worked. So you have to say, this is a team that's not been winning. They went into a game with a game plan. They executed that game plan. As you said, Scoop, they never deviated. They never got carried away. And they got the result. And that is massive for a nation that hasn't been winning. I'm not getting too excited yet because you can't play every week like that. And if they try to play every week like that, we're all going to get very angry very quickly, because that's not a way to win hearts and minds. That's not our style of rugby that's going to win hearts and minds. And we know, we've seen it with other nations as well. The players aren't going to buy into doing that every week.
Yeah.
Fiji did shred Wales's defence pretty much whenever they wanted, whenever they had the ball. And you have to say that Wales's best defender on the day was probably Fiji knock-ons.
Yeah,
Fiji's
the error rate was insane.
Fiji's offloads, man. You think, you see a guy and you think, don't offload. And then he offloads and you think, oh, it's not gone anywhere near a teammate. And then you blink and the teammate's caught the ball in one hand and has made 10 meters. And you're like, what is this that I'm watching here? It doesn't make sense to your rugby brain. It's the kind of thing that only that team can do in the world. Only Fiji can do. But do you remember, it's quite a long time ago now, guys. Remember we said on this show, we were talking about the Drua? And James said, if the Drua get a penalty on 5 meters from the opposition try line, they should say, no, thank you. They should go back to halfway and tap and go from there, because they just cannot convert platforms close to the opposition try line into scores. It has to be a miracle try every time. And how Fiji haven't even scored a try bonus point in this game. They've only scored 3 tries in this game. They got 0 points from this match.
And the way they were playing, it's insane.
If you look at the line breaks, the defenders beat, and the meters made stats, how you only scored 3 tries from that performance is crazy. And I think Fiji will be very frustrated. If, in my opinion, I follow Fiji a little bit, I think they got selection wrong. I don't know why they've picked Lamani over Kuravoli at scrum half. That's a mistake for me. Radraja, obviously, it looks like he's picked up a bad injury, which is awful because he's such a legend of the game. For me, I would have started Botitu anyway, because he's been playing incredibly for Cast in France. And, Vutamada on one wing, I don't think he's the most informed Fijian winger by any stretch of the imagination. So, and they left Bottia out and stuff. So I do think that they got selection wrong for this game. And they'll be kicking themselves. They'll be wondering how they got it. Because, for instance, the Josh Adams try, where Vutamada just watches it and Josh Adams puts his hand between his legs and dots it down. That's kind of a freak score, yeah. That's not going to happen every week. That's a moment. So Fiji, I think, will be fuming that they wasted such a huge opportunity. And I think for Wales, you'd say, okay, job done.
Yeah.
Good. Well done, everybody. But it's not, I don't think that is going to lead to success. I'm still waiting to see more from Wales. You know, I can't get carried away with this one.
No, fair. Jade, we're not going to jump into your thoughts on Fiji. No.
One small thing quickly. One small observation that I made about Fiji. You know, when Fiji did do well in the last World Cup, they had a bunch of luxury players, but they had 3 or 4 players that would do the heavy grafting, you know, cleaning, make those tackles, you know, just get up, tackle, didn't carry the ball as much. Now they've gone back to that style of getting a lot of luxury players into the team. I mean, if you look at the Rio Rayasi, Shutowi Silvas, all of them, they are the guys with the X factor in their club team. And sometimes when you're adding them all into one team, you're having too many luxury players and less hard workers. So I think that's the big thing of Fiji at the moment, you know. They need to get back to finding those guys that's going to graft, those guys that can scrum a little bit and clean rucks, you know, so that those luxury players can get the ball into space and capitalize.
Yeah,
it's just a big observation that Dean Jackson has to make.
Fair. Guys, just a reminder, you won't get any better analysis than the Rugby Scoop pod. I'm just putting it out there. Jade, ticket prices in Ellis Park. 1,500 for the cheapest ticket about a month ago.
That's due to the Iran war, man. That's why. That's why the stadium is empty. It's a rugby series because of the war. Now, Scoop, listen, we can go on about prices all weekend. It's not going to change. I think now Rugby made the mistake now by dropping their prices in the last week, you know, so they could get...
Yeah, people want the same thing next week.
People's going to want the same thing. And people say, hey, why must I book? No, let's wait. Why must I go and sit on top? Why must I sit on top and see, you know, let even Elizabeth look like Chase and Kobe, you know, I wait 2 weeks or a week before the game, I can get a better seat, you know, at a better price.
Yeah.
Why must I do that, you know? Why must I do that? So as a dangerous game they're playing by pushing down those prices. But for me, Scoop, and why was this game in Joburg? Why do they have to play this game in Joburg? Joburg's getting 3 tests this season. They're getting 2 New Zealand tests and they got the England test. What about Nelspruit? I mean,
altitude.
Come on, you don't need altitude to beat England, bro. You don't.
I don't know. Maybe Griffin can explain.
You don't need altitude to beat England. They could have had this game in PE. You know, they could have had this game there. I mean, instead of giving the Barbarians, giving this game over here because they stop the rugby. So I mean, there's something they could have. I don't know. Are they keeping this game in Ellis Park because the Lions don't get any, you know, turnover with their
that's a very good point.
Maybe they're doing that, you know, trying to get, you know, those people that bought the Lewis's and the vendors around Ellis Park, giving them some business for a day or so. Maybe that's why Ellis Park has 2 tests. But yeah, it doesn't make sense giving Johannesburg 3 tests, you know. That's not really the rugby.
And also, I mean, having these 3 tests as well, it's not like they're cheap. So now in a space of, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you're probably spending close to, 10 grand?
For a family of 4.
Oh.
For a family of 4.
That's more than. I'm talking about one person.
I'm speaking of experience. If you're going to go to the rugby, let's say you're 4, right?
Yeah.
And you, your wife and your 2 kids, let's say the average family, you're going to spend over 10,000 rand, you know, because you're going to spend over 10,000 rand on tickets.
Not with the Strait of Hormuz closed, huh?
Who has that money?
Hilarious. But nonetheless, let's get on to the nitty-gritty of this game. Griffin, we all watch the Springboks. We've been watching the Springboks. We've been dissecting the Springboks. And we understand that they've had Tony Brown for a wee while now. We understand the type of play that Tony Brown has introduced to South Africa. And I think a lot of people expected Tony Ball on Saturday, but the Springboks went back to their original template that we've seen since 2019, and they just box kicked England out of the game completely. Murley on the wing, Bosso on the other wing, and a small, what's his name now? The fullback who played yesterday. Come on, fullback. Marcus Smith. Marcus Smith. I mean, if you look at the average height of this English backfield, very, very small guys, all of them, right? And South Africa planned accordingly. And if you look at most of the box kicks, try and look at who is 2-3 meters away from that breakdown every single time. Peter Steph du Toit. And when I watched the box kick yesterday, I'm like, okay, Peter Steph, somehow he gets the rub of the green and the ball bounces somehow and it lands in his hands. And I'm like, oh, strategy put Peter Steph, because he's also quick. And also the box kick need to hang for at least 3 to 4 seconds before it goes to ground. And we're talking about in a space of 10, 15 meters in terms of a real estate gained. But what the Boks do well, they know it's a 50-50 ball. Get someone tall enough to be able to either get the scraps as an escort, but it doesn't work as an escort because it's not behind the catching players. He's either next to them or in front of them. So if the English guy taps it backwards, he's in a good position to catch that ball. If the Springbok guy taps it on the side, he's in a position to catch that ball. But it was a very good tactical display from a Springbok perspective in terms of nullifying any opportunities from the English threat. England went with pace, but they didn't use that pace on during the game. I didn't think they were threatening enough until they started going like direct, and they challenged the Springboks forwards a bit, but I think the Springboks backline won them this game, and the tactical box kick won them this game. But yeah, your thoughts regarding what you saw from England and Springboks?
It was like, you're totally right, Scoop, that it was so confrontational. It was so direct. The Boks were so direct. The box kicking, Willemse was fantastic in pretty much everything that he did in this game. You know, it's like you watch this guy playing wing for the Stormers in the URC, and you kind of forget sometimes.
Dobo needs to pay for this. Dobo needs to answer the world. Otherwise, we're taking him to the Hague.
But Dobbo's getting Colby next year, so we'll see.
He'll play Colby at 10. You never know.
Colby had a great game as well. You know, we shared it in the group of the right foot step that you can do nothing about. The Boks are so direct, and they've always had this ability to do this of just, you know, we talk about Tony ball and what that means, but like a Bok player gets the ball in his hands and he runs forwards, and either there's someone in front of him and he runs into them, and then, you know, it's 50-50 whether that tackle gets made or he goes straight through them, or there's no one in front of them and he scores a try. Like that, those are the two options. And just England couldn't, you know, they couldn't stand the heat. You know, they couldn't take it for 80 minutes. And even when England scored their first try to get it to 17-7, I was teasing some South African friends and saying, like, hey, if it gets to 22-0, are you happier or more nervous? Because of what happened against Australia, obviously. But so when England's got their try, the commentators were saying, finally, they had to really work for it, but England have got their try. And you're kind of thinking, especially at altitude, maybe 2026 rugby isn't about can you stop your opponents from scoring, but how hard can you make them work to score? And will they be out on their feet by the time they get over the try line? And I think that's what happened, that England just had nothing left by the time they got over the try line. So the Boks kind of, yes, they conceded a try, but it's kind of a small win in a way, if that makes sense. And yeah, the use of the bench, everything, it ended up being such a comfortable win. And obviously the Boks had that try disallowed at the end to put it over the 50 mark. That was a bit of a mercy on England for me, because it wasn't, from my point of view, that whatever the issue was, in the replays wasn't clear and obvious, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So, and I think from an England point of view, you're still going. Borthwick doesn't know what his strongest team is. If like Marcus Smith, how is Marcus Smith the second choice fullback for England? He's not capable of playing that position. Full stop. It's an experiment that needed to end a long time ago. Caden Murley.
But does Marcus Smith even play fullback for the Quins? No.
No.
Oh, jeez.
I thought that when England kind of got back into the game, in the second quarter, I thought that it was Finn Smith who was kind of dragging them there. Along with the other thing to say is the Bok line-out wasn't great. The Springboks line-out, I thought, struggled particularly in that first half.
Yeah.
And it's also worth noting, I think, did Marks play the full 80 again?
Sheesh.
I think hook is starting to become a bit of a problem position for the Springboks, it has to be said. Recall Joseph de Weber.
Rossi won't. He's too proud. He won't. He won't. After the Allblacks game, he was never selected again.
But I think that's something they need to look at. The Bok line-out wasn't great, and I think that gave England a kind of a foothold in the game. It let England off the hook when Willemse kicked that 50-22. People forget that the Boks lost the line-out on their own throw. It was unforced error.
Yeah.
But like I said, Marcus Smith doesn't work as a fullback. I think Finn Smith is their best 10. I don't think that they have any particularly good nines. I don't think any of their nines are special or would start for most nations in this competition. And then Seb Atkinson, if Seb Atkinson is the best 12 in England, you can see why they begged World Rugby to let them have Bernard Jensen van Rensburg. Honestly, I'm not seeing whatever anybody else is seeing with that. I don't see how he's a starter for England, to be honest with you, to be brutally honest. And
yeah, but how good was their midfield though in this game? I don't think I saw much from their 12 and 13.
Their backline is so disjointed. They've got a team in Northampton whose attack is incredible. If you look at Northampton Saints' underlying stats, they're unbelievable. And it's a mostly English backline, English 9, English 10, all English centre partners. And then Freeman as well. They've got in there, whose stats as a winger are also unbelievable, off the charts, incredible. But they play Freeman at centre. And then they don't have Dingwall in there. And I don't think that Dingwall's the best 12 in the world by any means. But at least he's got that cohesion with all of the Saints players around him.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be a star. He can just be functional. Obviously, Furbank being injured was a big blow. Appendicitis, I mean, how unlucky can you be? Jeez. But if you look at that England backline, out of the 7 positions, there's like 5 or 6 different clubs on the field at any one time.
Wow.
And it's all... I just don't see any kind of level of design going in there. I don't see any level of planning going in there. So for me, if that really is, the best that England can manage in terms of a lineup, they got problems. Because I don't think that lineup. I think that the locks went well. I think maybe the
they had a massive forward packer, England. Whoa.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
I thought that both Chesham, Martin, Coles. I don't know. Actually, Chesham might not have played. Actually, Coles and Martin, I thought went.
No, I think Chesham was the flanker, no? He was on the field.
I need to be reminded.
Yeah, I think he was on the field, if my memory serves.
Those guys are good players. That's probably the area of strength that they've got in the locks with England, as they always traditionally have.
They should have gone more direct, man, I think. Or they were afraid of pilfers. I
just don't think that there was any world where they were going to hang with the box in any facet of the game. Like I said, for me, the Springboks... the one thing they need to worry about is that hooker position.
Yeah.
Because if it seems like no marks, no party. And even Marks can have his off days on the throwing as well.
Oh, what a catchphrase, guys. No marks, no fucking party. That's beautiful. Griff, before you jump off, Jade, before you jump in, Borthwick. His job was on the line a few months ago, not so long ago, in the Six Nations, after copying loss after loss after loss. And now England, I heard some English commentary, people on the social saying that this game for them was just to solidify or show a bit of confirmation that England are on the rise, following a narrow loss to France, who were stacked in Paris. Now, coming off that, you would think, or one would think, that there's a bit of motivation, within the English camp, coming into South Africa, coming into Johannesburg and saying, hey, guys, we're putting up our hands. We came close to against France. I know we've had a terrible Six Nations campaign, but here we are. Let's show you what we are made of. And Borthwick has failed dismally. Is his job safe?
Well, apparently not in real terms, because the RFU continue to back him. But honestly, what data is being used to suggest that this guy has a project that's working? The number of historic losses that he has been in charge of. The first ever loss to Italy, biggest ever losses at home to both France and Ireland in the Six Nations, biggest ever Six Nations losses. They just keep racking up, and they've been smashed by the Springboks here. My question is, what data, what evidence does anybody have that this England team is progressing under Borthwick? Because I'm not seeing anything from campaign to campaign suggesting any kind of forward movement.
Oh, first loss to Fiji as well, eh?
Yeah, first ever
at
loss
home.
to Fiji as well. At home, he doesn't seem to be able to preserve any momentum. He keeps changing his selection. He keeps changing his backroom staff.
Yes.
What can we say that England have closed any gap to any of the teams around or above them? To say that I don't see. I'm repeating myself. I don't see what data can be used to suggest that England are a team that has made any progress since the last World Cup.
Fair. Jade, now on the box, the almighty Springboks. Very good in how they tactically approach games. We know Sia and Eben were last-minute changes, clockwork from Rassie Erasmus. Every single time he has to play a game that is quite serious or he takes seriously, there is those last-minute changes, either on a Thursday or on a Saturday on game day. And I've put this out there. You guys know it. All the listeners right now, you all know last-minute changes, clockwork, how it works, regardless of that. But we have to give credit to how particular they plan for games like this. They had a guy coming in from England who's been with the English side, right? And tactically, they knew what their approach would be. Borthwick, on the other hand, failed to understand what was in front of him. And the Springboks really calculated the fact that you don't have any more blockers, right? Now it's a 50-50 ball. There's open channels to challenge for the ball in the air. And they couldn't catch a single rugby ball. They struggled in this area. Forward pack-wise, I don't know. I think England probably had an edge or an advantage, but they couldn't capitalize because you don't have a Sia, you don't have an Eben. You have a guy starting his first Springbok game ever, right? You have Hanekom, who's playing his second Springbok game. But England, with their heavy bodies, couldn't capitalize on tactical plays during that test match. So for me, Springboks do get credit. As much as I was yawning because of the box kick, because there was a time in that game where Grant Williams is box kicking, Van Poortvliet was box kicking, and I'm like, whoa, when are we running, man? Cheapest, somebody do something. But like Wales against Fiji, stuck to their guns, stuck to their processes, did not deviate. Because it's easy to say, hey, change your style of play. We want to see something else. But at the end of the day, to stay truly to your game plan and tactic, my goodness, there's discipline in there, man. There's discipline in there. Credit to Rasta, credit to the coaching staff as well.
Lots of discipline, Scoop, but you're sounding like JK and Ian Foster now. You're yawning.
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing.
I don't think it was that bad. Listen, as much as you want to talk about it, then it's like they dominate the air. They dominate the air. And I mean, if you go back, if people are saying, yeah, The team went backwards with both. Guys, in October last year, we were just talking of, hey, England stand a chance of winning the World Cup. Now they utter shit. What happened to the guy? What's his name? Call him Timo Jody Barrett. Freddie Stewart. What happened to him? Where is he?
Yeah.
He
Air Stewart,
what
they used to
happened
call him.
Yeah, Air Stewart. What happened to him? But anyway, enough of England. For me, guys, and not even for me, we just look at it. The way the box set up, the way they game plan, what they allow you to do compared to the other teams. Earlier on, I mentioned, that teams thrive off the power play, thrive off playing off advantage. How long do you take before you get advantage? How many phases do you put on in the red zone before they finally cave in, and you get a team getting offside? The box, they don't give it to you easily. You're going to have to go sometimes 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8, 9 phases before somebody strays offside. That's what the box do good. But when they come into your half, either from a scrum or from a line-out, they're able of the first or second phase, even from set play, to get an advantage and play with a free play. So that's automatically an advantage they're putting themselves in. And that's Rassie Erasmus. I mean, that's tactical brilliant, and he's good at it. I mean, that's why the box sometimes, they will blow you away. Not by playing razzle-dazzle. They will go hard, and then you'll be so scared of playing this box team that you will shoot off size, or you so concentrated in scrum time that you scrum illegal, or you lose your bind. Advantage against you, the box go. Then they can razzle-dazzle. Then you get the likes of Manny Lebok, Damien Willemse, Kobe coming into the game. But before that, before the box have that advantage, they don't give much away. They thrive for it. They go route one. Peter Steph makes hard yards. Thomas the Tank, easy first phase ball until you get that advantage, and then they start to play. And for me now, they're getting that advantage very quickly. They're getting it off set piece or first or second phase ball. They're getting that advantage and that free play. So that's one area. The other area where the box is brilliant, they don't allow you, you got to work hard to get an advantage. And also, you don't get any ruck speed against the box. What the box do, they thrive. Go and watch the game yesterday. How many times did Dolman say, 8, leave it now. 6, hands off now, it's ruck time. 2, hands off, ruck time. It's a thread and a trend, and it's something that's going on in game after game of the game. The box target the breakdown, not to steal the ball, but to slow the ball. So teams got to realize that that's what the box do in defense. They slow the game down, and they allow the rush defense to shoot up from there. So if you want to beat the box and you want to play this box team, you got to have to look at it. Speeding up the game, speeding up the ruck time, getting those players out of the ruck. It's difficult to clean them, but clean them quickly. Look at your pick up and goes. And, not allowing your pillars to sit and for the rush defense to sit. That's one way, looking at this box team. But other than that, they're very disciplined in their game plan. The box kicks, guys. We can speak about it and we can say it's boring, but Scoop, the amount of IP they put into that box kicks.
Yeah.
Steph, roaming around. I mean, Jason Kobe and as much as you said, Marcus Smith and Faiwa Bosso and all those guys are short. Jason Kobe's no 2-meter tall guy. Curtly Huddins is short, but they get up, they compete, they feed for scraps. If you win the ball, they make sure that they have 2 guys, 3 guys over the ball, getting a penalty. You're not getting any clean ball from there is difficult. So for me, the box with a box kick and a kicking game is brilliant amount of work they put into that, and the amount of work they do off the ball. Getting players around that ball, working from kick to kick. Getting everybody in to Paul de Villiers, Jasper Wissel, Peter Steps, getting them around there. So that's something real tactic, and a lot of IP they put into it. It's not just where they were. Look where they were in 2019 and maybe in certain aspects in 2023 in the World Cup when they had Faf de Klerk there. That was just stupid box kick after box kick, aimless the whole time, up and down, like you call it air tennis. But now, when they putting up that box kick, there's a lot of chases, a lot of work going into that. So, look, they're well-oiled unit. They're a good team. They are beatable. I don't think there's a team in World Rugby not beatable. Throughout the history of the game as well, the team is always beatable. But, for me yesterday, when they stepped up the gates, England were nowhere in that game. And England can look at it on the other side and say, yeah, we had 2 chances, 3 chances there. One with George Martin stepping out, he could have taken a chance. Was it Jamie George, picking up and going. try just fell out, and the other one was with Finn Smith broke and couldn't connect, with the try. Just one pass, 1 or 2 phases from their strike time. So they're looking at those moments there, but also what would have happened if England took the lead or England got closer? You always felt that the box would just step up again, and score 2, 3 more tries and then take it from there. So that's a comfortable zone that the box are in now. And last thing, guys, I agree with you, Scoop. I stand fully with you. There's no way somebody as big and strong as Eben Etzebeth can get concussed in the captain's round, because there's no way they're doing copper stump there. So I think Eben and Sia was that
tactical. It was tactical. I mean, obviously taking Sia is a big shock for any opponent. It's like removing Richard McCaw before a final, and then your opponents go, "What the hell?" Tactical play, mind games. I mean, it's all part of it. And the fact for me is that, or the thing that stands out for me is that with this kind of shock changes, maybe it was discussed internally, who knows, right? But even with the shock changes, there's players that kind of slotted in as if they knew what was going to happen. For example, the Stormers guy, the flanker. I mean, if you look at his gameplay, like the way he was affecting the rucks, and eventually Dolman had to penalize him because he was just a nuisance at the breakdown. Every single time England had the ball, he was just a nuisance. And a few times, he wasn't supporting his own body weight. He had his feet like almost in a split position, right? But still going for the ball. Now, at this moment, I'm like, how is this guy allowed to even challenge this ruck? But yeah, I mean, if you have smart coaches around the globe, Joe Schmidt, assuming that Dave Rennie, would be able, because all coaches have conversations with officials before a game, and if a guy like the guy who replaced Sia, forget his name, man, he was a captain of the under-20s,
Paul de Villiers.
Paul de Villiers, yes. If you have Paul de Villiers coming in, you're already pointing that out to the next referee that's coming on Saturday and say, hey, man, we're not going to allow this. We're trying to play fast. But if this guy is always disrupting our ball, how do we know that you are going to be consistent at the breakdowns? Because all coaches have conversations with officials. So when things like this come up, I go to myself and I think to myself, man, how is nobody from the English side going to the ref and saying, ref, too much conversation with the opponents. Can you just penalize them so we get ascendancy? So many times our ball is getting slowed down, but you are just talking them out of penalizing them. So can we get penalties in these positions? Right? It changes the scope of the game. You need leaders like that who are analyzing what's happening. You need people with the awareness to go, hey, man, these guys are slowing down our ball every single breakdown to set up for their defense. So how do we nullify this? How do we communicate with the official and say, ref, we can't have 6, 2, and 7 always slowing down our ball? Can we get some form of reward? Because now we're trying to play a quick game. Every single ruck is slowed down by this. But regardless of that, going back to your point, Jade, about Cheslin Colby being and Aronsa being short, I understand, but they are running towards the ball. I feel like there's a bit of a difference than static players like Waboso and Murley standing still and waiting for the ball to come down to them. Because if you look at the All Blacks, I think it was Ruben Love and Mackenzie, at times they will take 3 or 4 steps back and then run onto the ball as well. I feel like the English guys did not do that or articulate or plan properly for the aerial bombs. I mean, you saw it happening in the first half. So what plans are you making in the second half when you're communicating with the team? So I feel like Cheslin Colby running at pace, having the ascendancy to jump and contest for the ball in the air versus a guy who's just standing still. I think even Murley at one point didn't even jump and caught Cheslin Colby while he was in the air and got pinged for it. And I'm like, bro, come on, man. This is international rugby, right? We understand what's coming, but you are not reading the plays well, But I don't know, man. Technically, England, I don't know. I really don't know. Springboks, Very good in the air. Very, very good in the air. And I'm going to show the clips. I'm going to do a thread with the clips of this aerial kicks and who are the escorts and what are the plans from a Springbok perspective. We know what they're going to do with Tony Ball, but I think everyone expected Tony Ball than expecting what transpired yesterday. And yeah, I mean, whatever it takes to win, right? You can play slow rugby. And also, if it's that slow, so England cannot complain about altitude, right? Because it's bombs, aerial bomb after aerial bomb. So there's 3 players roughly in that space or vicinity of the ball, and the rest are just focusing on scraps, or if the ball bounces in a different way. If you get possession, how do you set up for a quick attack? If you don't get possession, how do you set up for defense? Right? So yeah, I think teams need to really, or England in particular, need to have better tactical awareness or coaching staff in their team. But yeah, closing comments, Hugh, regarding this weekend, Nation Championship, or what stood out mostly for you out of this weekend. I understand Damian Willemse, Grant Williams, really, really, really good outings. Really good outings yesterday.
We still don't know what we're ever going to get from Argentina. Impossible, the hardest to predict team in the world.
God.
Apart from that, Wales are on for the title, and England mudded as usual.
Yeah, they finished 5th in the Six Nations. Didn't expect much. Maro Itoje taking a sabbatical, professional rugby player in a competition that's just starting. I don't know, man. I don't know where their priorities are when it comes to England rugby. Jade, your closing comments?
Yeah, you know what? Argentina, thanks for messing up my Betway slip again. Yeah. I don't know. The only team that beats Scotland in Scotland, and then in Argentina, expect them to beat
Scotland.
Right?
It doesn't make any sense.
And then next week, Scotland will get 50 points, against them and use the Box. And Argentina will play the Box, and it'll be a close-fought game. You're like, what's this team on, bro? Come on. But anyway, and the other thing is, let's see how what happens this week. A few big games. I think the big game is Australia and France. That's the big game, and then Scotland in the Box. So maybe Scotland in the Box can give us more of a running game, more of more end to end, and more razzle dazzle. They might be soft.
Where are they playing? Scotland and the Springboks?
Are they not at Loftus?
Probably also Ellis Park.
I think that Loftus, man. That Loftus. So
well, Glasgow Warriors won at Loftus, so
yeah. No.
No. Griffin?
Be there, but they won't.
Lads, it's Scotland.
Scotland at Loftus. Interesting times. Italy is also another disappointment this weekend for me personally. After having such a great Six Nations, going to Japan, man. What? Come on.
Probably put another 10 years on Eddie Jones's career with that. Italy have.
Didn't Japan lose last week against the Maoris?
Yeah. Similar team.
Italy were terrible. They really offered nothing. It's really disappointing. You're like, guys,
crazy.
What are you doing?
And Ireland are lucky because they don't have to travel to Japan this weekend. They stay in Australia, and Japan has to travel to Australia. Crazy times in world rugby. But regardless, guys, great chat, gents, and thanks to all the listeners, man. We're gonna put this up on Spotify, and it'll be on YouTube, which is audio. We really don't have visuals for this. And then, Apple Podcasts, Spotify are our main ones. And you can listen tomorrow when you're going to work, during lunchtime at work. And if you have any comments as well, guys, feel free, drop them down below this link. And follow Hugh Griffin, follow Jade Craig. Hugh Griffin has a podcast on YouTube as well, guys, so you can have a look. I think he looks the same as his picture on Twitter.
Yeah, use on the podcast every day of the week.
Yeah, consistent branding.
Guy in international rugby at the moment in terms of podcasts.
Great chat, guys. Thanks to all the listeners and great conversation. Looking forward to next week. And yeah, I will drop a few threads, I think, regarding the Springboks kicking aerial display and yeah, looking at the frailties from an English perspective. But anyway, thank you guys. Great Sunday. Have a good week ahead and we'll see you next week Sunday. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, guys.